Microsoft is not necessarily seeing security as just safety. Security is also business continuity. So without the business
Definitely.
continuity, you won't be able to talk about a security.
Welcome to the Tekitok podcast, where we embark on a journey through the ever-evolving realm of SAP and IT operations, automation, artificial intelligence, and cloud technologies. Whether you're an IT professional, a business leader, or simply curious about emerging technologies and industry insights, our episodes will be your compass in navigating this dynamic landscape with real-world experiences. Join us as we demystify complex concepts, explore innovative trends, and engage in stimulating dialogue with industry experts to empower you with insights that matter. The views expressed by our hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the opinions of their respective companies. The producer of this Tekitok podcast assumes no responsibility for any public content, ideas, or recommendations shared.
Welcome to our Tekitok podcast. Today we have a special guest, Evren Guyruk, and he's from Microsoft, and we're going to talk today on a very special topic that near and dear to every SAP customers and other enterprise customers on the cloud, asking about deep, important questions around security. It's such a big topic, and Evren's the expert here who's going to break us down into multiple pillars. And whatever we don't cover today, there's some deep dive. We can always go into future episodes. And I really appreciate Evren. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. I'm really excited to be here today.
Okay. So, Evren, do you want to tell our audience a little bit about your background, how you got into this area?
Absolutely. So again, thanks, Lynn, for this opportunity. Hi, everyone. My name is Evren Guyruk. I'm a principal cloud solution architect from Microsoft, and I cover apps and infra and mainly security for applications, any application hosted on Azure. So I'm also one of the technical leads for SAP Connected Community, and I'm also a member of Microsoft Azure triage team, which actually just has been supporting Microsoft internal audience. So this is pretty much me. So I'm really very excited again today to be actually just talking on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm honored you're on here. You know, Microsoft has been in the news so much lately with the whole AI, and we're very excited. And I know when we're recording this, we just had recently Microsoft Ignite conference that had a lot of exciting announcements. So I'm sure Evren keeps on top of all this in relation to cloud and application security. So I think without further ado, let's dive into what does customer really think about, right? When they want to go to cloud, how do I best protect? So, you know, I'm going to ask you to kind of give us an overview of your take on the biggest topics around security, especially today.
Exactly. So basically, there's not even one customer who's not necessarily interested in finding out what Microsoft provides in the security field, is they trust a third-party company, and then they ask the third-party company, in their view, is just like we're a third-party company, and they say, all right, why should we just trust Microsoft? And then they ask us, what is the reason they should actually just trust Microsoft? And then what is Microsoft's point of view on the technology, the cloud technology from security point of view? Because they know that they can actually just handle many of the application innovation and application development, but when it comes to securing the application hosted on a third-party cloud, so they need to understand what the vendors do, what exactly that vendors do. So when I'm actually just showing this slide to the audience, this is not like I am gonna go ahead and just speak about every single thing here in the slide, but I am just going to be talking about the DMZ concept, or DMZ approach, what exactly DMZ is. The concept of DMZ is actually a layered network security approach, which has been designed to minimize the attack footprint of any application on Azure Cloud or Microsoft Cloud. So basically, a DMZ architecture is comprised with either 2-layer or 3 layers of security and protection concept with additional user-defined routes and firewall rules that Microsoft add on top. Basically, when a customer thinks about moving their application to Azure, they just would like to understand how Microsoft really just enables that, traffic and hosting of the application and enabling all the endpoints secure so that customers can go ahead and just scale. So basically, what we say to our customers from day one, when they actually just, when they decide to move to Azure, we tell the customers that Azure Network is something that is no longer going to be behind their firewall. It is going to be behind Microsoft firewall. So what Microsoft is doing to augment this behind the firewall concept is the network security groups and also the Microsoft technology, such as like the Microsoft firewalls, and then layer 7 solutions such as like front door and application gateway, and then you name them. So because everything that Microsoft actually just does in the cloud space is based on the zero trust security model. So what exactly zero trust is, or everybody actually just hears about that. And from Microsoft perspective, this is a modern security framework that has been created to manage the complexity of any organization's application footprint. So basically, when we are talking about the cloud technologies, when we're talking about the hosting the application on the cloud technology, we are looking at this holistically. And the holistic approach to this zero trust concept should extend throughout the entire digital estate. Basically, it is going to be serving as an integrated security philosophy and end-to-end strategy so that customers can do this by implementing the zero trust controls and technologies across 6 foundational elements that we talk about. So here in the slide that you see the identities, which is something that Microsoft actually just
you want to share the slide?
I'm not sharing my slides.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's good you talk because we want to get introduced, but let's share the slide so we can follow along.
I am very sorry that I thought that I was actually sharing my slide.
No problem.
So I am very, very sorry about that. Okay, let me go ahead and just get the slide up. All right, and I don't know what I was really thinking. And I actually just started to talk about this.
Hey, this is live. We do a broadcast,
yeah.
Hey, so if I can follow you in the first few minutes without slide, that's important. But let's have some cool slides.
I mean, I can. I mean, this was actually pretty much the first slide that I was talking about. So I'm just going to run this a little bit fast. So sorry for the audience, but I really thought that I was sharing my screen. Now you can see my slides.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So now the 6 foundational elements of zero trust security. So this is very important for the audience to hear, is Microsoft is not going to tell any customer to mandate any of these technologies to be integrated into their network or their Azure investment for their application. Microsoft is going to be talking in detail. So people like me, I'm a cloud solution architect. And what I do for my customers is that I design and I help them design Microsoft best practices on their platform. Basically, they have the tenant, they have the subscriptions. So we are giving them all the best practices. While we are doing it, we are not mandating anything to the customers. They can go ahead and just implement the way that Microsoft suggests, or they can leave it alone. They can do their own, security enablement on our cloud, and then they can ask us about the advisory. They can use Microsoft Azure Portal solutions to find out how secure their investments are, and then they can make the decision accordingly. But what we tell customers is, before you think about any kind of solution, go ahead and just design what exactly that you want to achieve from security point of view. What is important to you? Identities, which is actually I'm just covering here. Here in the slide that you can see, identity access management. So this part it is not important if it is representing people. if it is representing services or IoT devices. So this is going to define a zero trust control plane. Basically, when an identity is attempting to access to a resource, Microsoft tells customers that they need to verify that identity with strong authentication.
Mm-hmm.
They should ensure access is compliant, and this is going to be typical for that identity. And then they will follow least privilege access, principles for some specific identities. Who's going to be doing it is going to be our customers are going to identify those identities. The reason is Microsoft is not going to know who John is or who Bob is. We don't know.
So this also cover application, right? So let's say SAP is an identity that want to say access between two applications.
Absolutely who is the read and write access to that application.
Right.
Okay. So let's say
because I think if people don't understand, they kind of feel like, oh, this is people, but it's not. It could be machine to machine, app to app, and all that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Now we're talking about AI and also like chatbot and any other thing that is just now coming to the surface. Now everything is just becoming very important because whoever is having the application access, or let's say that somebody is having an access to the critical data, but we don't know how that data is protected. Did the customer think about Azure ransomware solutions? For example, is there any way that they implemented the brute force attacks, for example, protection for brute force attacks? Or are they following any best practices on it? How are they making sure the data is not deleted by one person and that deletion is final? So it shouldn't be final. There needs to be another identity, another person making sure without the permission of that person that backup data is not going to be deleted. The number one reason for ransomware today is customer is using brute force attack technologies. They have access to data. So what they do, it's not the customer, the attacker or the bad actor. They go ahead and just, hold the data. They delete it from the customer's environment, but the data is backed up to an external storage device. So once it is happening, they have the data. So now they can actually just do all kind of extortion. They can actually threaten the customer. They can do anything. They can now play with the system. So now when that happens, the data is exfiltrated, then there's something there to consider. What went wrong? What did the customer not do right? So what we do from Microsoft perspective, because I spoke about data is one of the 6 foundational principles. Data, this is ultimately security teams are focused on protecting this particular concept, which is data. So what we tell customers, like when they ask us about, hey, where do you think the data should remain? We say that data should remain safe, even if it is leaving the devices or application or infrastructure and even the networks. So basically, so what we tell the customers that by the time they open the store, like they switch on the storage account. Let's say that as you go to Microsoft portal, you go ahead and just create yourself a storage account, which is the first thing that you do. So what you see is there, Microsoft is enabling AES 256 by default. So there's no way that you can actually just do anything less than that. Because why? Microsoft is not going to risk it. So you might make a mistake, but Microsoft is not going to allow you to make that first and very important mistake. Because if you're not securing your storage account, that security down the road on top is not going to make any sense. Because why? Because your storage account, which is going to be holding all the microservices, is now going to be exposed. So now, how you can actually just do this across the applications, for example? Like, let's say that, what can you do for the application security? What can you do? Like I spoke about MUA, multi-user authorization, which means that if the data is actually being written to the blob storage, for example, or you have the backup, you're using technology like ANF backup, for example, and then you're
Okay.
pushing that backup to the blob storage. So now you know that you actually just have the technology to protect that data with the storage, storage security, storage account security with the
Mm-hmm.
encryption of AES 256. But now let's say that how can we go granular on this? Like what can we do extra to make sure that the data is going to be safe? So what is the solution? What is the simplest solution? What I am thinking about is MUA,
Mm-hmm.
multi-user authorization, which came GA last year. So
Okay.
whoever customer I spoke about, they implemented it. Easy, free, they implemented it. Now they have the peace of mind. What is the peace of mind? This is important, Lynn. They know that backup data is not going to be deleted by one person only. They need to have the secondary person. They can have the secondary person even in a different tenant, different
Mm-hmm.
subscription. So
Okay.
now, how are you now going to be manipulating the other person? You won't be able to, because you can actually just like hack into one person's system. You can not hack into the second person's system right at the same time, because there's going to be subscription based security as well.
Mm.
Not every single thing on the tenant level is going to be implemented the same. Now customers are using is called multi-segmentation. So
That's great.
the database architects, application architects, they are
Mm-hmm.
all just going to have their own NSG rules from the RBAC perspective. Not every single person is going to have overlapping permissions. So you are just going to stop it right there. So this is something very fundamental. So I'm asking every single customer watching this, if you have not enabled MUA, reach out to Lynn, myself, or your Microsoft account team. And then one CSA is going to be maybe saving you millions, saving you reputation of your
Right.
company, and also protecting your customers' data. So be careful
Brings
with that.
Hey, brings to mind that nuclear DEFCON situation, right? DEFCON 3. So now they got two guys, three guys,
Yeah.
whatever it is, with their keys and put it in and count down and turn before they can even do anything. So this is good.
Fantastic example. I mean, when you want to enrich it, even customers listening to this, they also have some some
Mm-hmm.
experiences they actually just went through. So
Right.
this is like you're getting yourself a fingerprint enabled door lock system. Yes, you're gonna be actually just using your fingerprint, but if you have an opportunity to use a physical key, go ahead and just use the physical key inside. You know
Yeah.
why? Because you are not going to be single point of failure is going to be actually just eliminated. And then
Mm-hmm.
what you're gonna do, you will have the peace of mind. Okay, something happened. My biometrics has been actually breached, but I have the physical thing. So that
Yeah.
physical thing is actually just going to be your peace of mind. MUA is your physical thing, which I actually just say, because it's very
Great.
hard to actually say what it is. It is the peace of mind. You can call it peace of mind, or you can call, I am just going to be sleeping without any disruption tonight. This is
Mm-hmm.
your peace of mind. You know that your important backup data is not going to be breached. Why?
Mm.
You're the person that is going to give that second authority, and you're putting your head onto the pillow. So they won't be able to come and just like manipulate you during your sleep, because you will say, no, I'm not alive in this deletion operation. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can go ahead and just granularly, you can find out about who that access is, where that access is coming from. Then you are talking about the application gateway and Microsoft Azure firewall side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Route tables. You
Right.
enable route tables between app gateway and then firewall, and you go ahead and just find a source IP. Where that IP is coming from? Then there is a chance for you now to work with the law enforcement, the legal people that you can actually just now report, and you can just say, this is the breach that we actually just got, and now we have to just stop this. So this is
Mm-hmm.
how exactly this actually just works. And then so like there are lots of areas. So this is just like one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the thing is actually the start with how the customer actually just comes to Azure. Because the thing is, the picture that you see here is speaking about ExpressRoute. This is actually one of the most important part of the networking and security for SAP and non-SAP applications on Azure. Is this is a dedicated outside internet connectivity to Azure data centers. This is one piece of mind for customers to actually just enable, and then they can go ahead and just augment their posture with ExpressRoute, because this is dedicated. So when the client deploys this ExpressRoute circuit, they are going to have two types of peering, which is to access the public-facing workloads, and the other one is going to be the private peering, which is to access the virtual networks and VNets. And then you can also just say share services for the virtual network and all the other components which are not necessarily public-facing or burdened for the public access. This is something that, like, when I'm actually just explaining you like this, I'm even just convincing myself why this is important, because this is the private connectivity to Azure data centers. So what happens is, when a customer considers the robust connectivity from their on-premises to Microsoft data centers or Microsoft Cloud Edge, they are really just allowing themselves to burst up 2 times the bandwidth limit when they need it, from the bandwidth perspective. So basically, not only they're given actually just better connectivity, they're getting better bandwidth, and then they're also just getting that redundancy. As most of the time they say, okay, this is actually just going to give me the maximum security from the connectivity to Azure perspective. But what is the thing that, like, Microsoft can do if my ExpressRoute connectivity or the circuit is down? What can I do? So then Microsoft has the partners, the networking partners, which are actually just enabling them to ExpressRoute circuit. I will give an example, like such as East2S and then East2S2, and then they have the continuity from that perspective. So from the security point of view, this is something like, I'm gonna go back and forth between networking and security, because these are inseparable, and then very important. Because by the way, audience, Lynn and I had a conversation before this podcast started, and I mentioned to him that Microsoft is not necessarily seeing security as just safety. Security is also business continuity. So without the business continuity, you won't be able to talk about a security. If you do not have the business continuity, how are you just going to enable the security? So basically, this is the reason why, while you're actually just looking at all the design principles, make sure that you're working with a Microsoft partner, that you can have that HA solution for the ExpressRoute circuit. Although ExpressRoute circuit is going to be the robust solution, but just in case for any kind of like situation, you can have the secondary ExpressRoute circuit, which is just going to be doing the weight management, and then you can go ahead and just create yourself the HA that you're looking for. So from the
I see how this is very applicable, because my experience with a lot of SAP customers is, obviously your enterprise workload is not going to be exposed to the internet, right? Most SAP customer stuff is private. So they think, oh, I need to protect security. I'm not exposing any IP. My apps are not on public. But most of the traffic is going through this ExpressRoute, right? And this is the primary connection from corporate headquarters or all the branches. And it's number one place where all of the traffic, whether you're going to filter it, scan it, protect it, this is where it all starts. This design of the ExpressRoute circuit is so important for customers going onto the cloud, right?
Fantastic point that you made. And also, Lynn, this is something that a lot of people, I can tell that now they're thinking, okay, all right, I got my ExpressRoute circuit. Tell me about that, security on it. What exactly it is. So I'm just going to say this. Microsoft provides media access control security, MACsec. So MACsec with ExpressRoute, MACsec is enabled, provided. And MACsec itself provides layer 2 and also IPsec. And IPsec is providing layer 3 security, which means that, so like what is MACsec? So media access control security is IEEE standard. So if anybody doesn't know, please go to Microsoft Bing. I'm not going to say the third-party search engine. Go to Microsoft Bing, type IEEE, IEEE security, and just find out what it is. Basically, some customers are going to say, hey, Lynn, hi, Evren. I understand about IEE. So what can I do to actually just make it even better? The answer to the question is, if this was a live, session, I would ask the audience, and then maybe I would actually just say to the person, hey, just come online, turn on your, video. Everybody sees you. We will just give him a round of applause. So the reason why I'm saying is that IPsec with IEE is actually just making IPsec over ExpressRoute. So imagine that ExpressRoute is already MACsec. You're getting the IPsec. So with IPsec is you're getting IETF standard audience. The second one that you need to put on Bing, what is IETF? So you're actually just getting this 2 industry, high-end, high-fidelity security encryption solutions in one single circuit deployment. You're actually just spending the money on the circuit, and IPsec is coming free. So you're enabling IPsec over ExpressRoute, which is just going to be making sure now your network entry to Azure is going to be double encrypted. Now the answer, how is Microsoft providing security encryption to Azure data centers? What is the rule? Let's say maybe exam question, IPsec over ExpressRoute. Let me go actually to the second slide, which I'm actually just going to be talking about some of the technologies, like this previous example was Microsoft was enabling the ExpressRoute circuit, and then you have 2 paths. One of them is a private network connectivity, the other one is public. So now here in this, that you also see that we're actually just looking at the hub VNet, which is hub is the Azure VNet, uses the hub in the hub and spoke topology. So what is hub? A lot of people, even veteran Microsoft or partner or customers, they say, what is a hub? It's just like the hub and spoke airplanes, and then there's spokes and there's the hub. So basically, somebody needs to actually just make sure there's going to be central point of connectivity to the airport. That is your hub. And that hub is connected to the towers, which is the spokes. So what exactly the hub is? That is the central point of connectivity to, like I actually just gave the airport example, but in this, I'm going to say it is your on-premises network. This is going to be a place to host that shared services that can be consumed by different workloads hosted in the spoke, VNet. VNet, virtual network, is actually the hub VNet is typically mapped directly to an IT subscription to provide this network transit, like the ExpressRoute gateway, VPN gateways, and MVAs, or also like security identity services. So basically,
this is in a typical shared services.
Exactly.
Is definitely the shared services.
Exactly. So number one rule of thumb, what Evren does from Microsoft side with Microsoft engineering and what Microsoft recommends is IT subscription should be actually in the hub network, hub VNet. It is the IT subscription. So putting the IT subscription to spokes is not going to make any sense. Why? Because your IT is actually just managing your entire network infrastructure. That you have the towers, then network people, like the basis people, and then you have, SAP basis people, that you have the administrators, DBAs, and then you actually just do the multi-segmentation there. But from the perspective of the subscriptions, what Microsoft actually just tells customers that have multiple subscriptions, you can have prod, dev subscriptions in the same region, And then you make sure that you do the multi-segmentation accordingly using the NSGs, for example, that you have the database network security group, and then you have application network security group, and then you have application availability group, and then you are actually, the more you are creating, you are actually creating multi-segmentation. Now the question, this is going to be something that everybody is going to like. Evren, I am just going to have my NSGs, my multi-segmentation. I know that there are thousands of rules with NSGs, network security groups. Tell me, what is the best practice? There is none. There's no best practice. But what is the option? What can you do? What would I do? I'm a Microsoft CSA, right? So I have been in this. I'm certified across all Microsoft principles, like from the perspective of like solution areas. What would I do? Once you're creating yourself the network segmentation, or you're about to just create the network segmentation, you have an option. This option is so interesting. You can use the rules separately for each and every groups that you created for the segmentation. And then you can use the NSG rules for database, for application, all the groups that you created. So 3,500 rules that we are talking about, even more now. So how is this going to work? What about, like, I give this feedback and nobody hears this, okay? Disable all the NSG rules, and then go one by one and just see each and every element and then create it. But disable all and apply all. Apply all, and then you granularly just disable it if you do not need it. But what I am saying is, when you enable all, you make sure that you're enabling rules, then you can go ahead and just delete and disable all those rules based on what that group is going to be doing, what is the need for the group, what are certain people going to be doing in it, so you can actually just go granular. So this is how you are actually just doing the multi-segmentation from the best practices perspective. So like from the resource group, for example, perspective, the hub VNet and each spoke VNet, you can actually, you can do the implementation in different resource groups that and in different, subscriptions. So what happens is that when you're peering a virtual network in a different subscription, both subscriptions can be associated with the same or different Azure, like the IAM solution, the Entra, or in all words, it is actually Active Directory. So resource group is allowing that decentralization management of each workload while you're sharing services maintained in the hub VNet. Then so that you're actually just making sure that hub VNet that you enable for central point of connectivity is actually achieving more than it was supposed to. So it actually just becomes your real central point of connectivity and management area. So you can manage everything from there. So then the gateway subnet that you see here, like for example, here on the ExpressRoute Virtual Gateway subnet. So this is the reason why this is required to build a virtual network gateway. So normally, let's say that we're allocating like 32 addresses to the subnet, and then this is going to help the customer to prevent reaching gateway size limitations in the future. So basically, I actually just need to add one slash there for the, gateway subnet. Like when you do the allocation of 32/32, you're going to get the maximum, so that down the road, you're not necessarily just going to hear, although that I actually just do 24, but what I do, I actually just do 27. So for this example that I actually just did the 24, because this is something the customers say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do from the allocation of the gateway subnet. But what I do, just go ahead and just go a little bit, further up. So you can actually just go to 27. So basically, these kind of things are, very little areas, but again, like
the foundation, right? I mean, you have to do the foundation security, right?
So exactly. So when I'm actually just looking at the limited, like we're covering a lot of things in just very limited time. But this is something that is really just going to be helping most of our customers, that it is not that easy to go ahead and just enable zero trust security without really understanding what exactly that you're trying to do. Like, for example, this slide that I'm showing, the DDoS topic. Most customers, they do not even know what DDoS is, or they say, why do I even need to do that? Because this is something that like my IT can actually just like, help prevent it. So this slide is actually real data. So in 2022, what we actually just did, we mitigated an average of 1,435 attacks per day. So the maximum number of attacks in a day recorded was like 2,215, something around there. And then this was recorded last year in September. So the minimum number of attacks in a day was around 680. So this was recorded in August. So in total, Microsoft actually released a public note. So we said we mitigated upwards of 520,000 unique attacks against our global infrastructure during 2022, which means that this actually has been eliminated by Microsoft. And Microsoft actually just helped customers also by Microsoft making billions of dollars of investment in security every year to make sure that our customers' data, their solution areas, their applications are going to be secure in the optimized way possible.
Yeah,
And
this is
Microsoft is
protecting the customer's trust in the
exactly
Azure, the cloud, right? It's the security of the cloud, right?
So
right.
if I go to any customer today, I say you're gonna be spending billions of dollars every year to secure your workloads. They're gonna say cloud technology is not for me. But Microsoft is spending this amount every year, billions every year. There's no like compromise on that. Microsoft is gonna continue to spend. Why? Our customers' data is our number one priority, and we will continue to do that. So basically, last May, Microsoft, there was another release. We mitigated, maybe you heard that on news, 3.25 terabits per second attack in Azure. This is actually the largest attack that was recorded by far. So, and then the TCP attacks were the most frequent form of this DDoS attack encountered in last year's reporting. So this was compromising around 63% of all the traffic, all the attack traffic actually. Basically, this included like all the TCP attack vectors. I will say the TCP SYN, TCP ACK, TCP flood, etc. So since TCP remains the most common networking protocol, we are expecting TCP-based attacks to continue to evolve in 2024, 2025, and then this year is already ending. It is actually just going to be increasing. So what Microsoft does, that we are actually just providing our customers with the DDoS network level protection with SLA guarantee, no egress, during the egress, times, Microsoft customers used to actually just pay back Microsoft some egress costs because there's a egress exposed when you're actually just attacking DDoS. Right. So right now there's a credit back to the customer immediately. So what the customer does, they enable the DDoS protection for the environment and for their virtual network. So let's say customer is also leveraging Microsoft Application Gateway WAF, which is the web application firewall on top of application. What happens is, do you know what Microsoft does if a customer buys Azure DDoS network level protection? Do you know what happens, Lynn? I tell you, WAF is free.
Free, yeah.
WAF is free. So if the customer enables DDoS, it used to be standard. Now it is network level protection. Now it is free. So this used to be the concern for a customer. Hey, you know what? I don't want to spend additional for, my WAF because my layer 7 is fine, but I would love to do that. Okay, go ahead and you already have the, network level protection and go ahead and just like check your Azure portal, because you're no longer paying for the WAF component. So there is actually the DDoS protection, which is actually just providing the customer with like a lot of peace of mind. But one thing that I would like to actually just highlight here is that yes, DDoS, denial of service attacks, is very important, and customers have an option right now to enable network level protection from Microsoft. So it is just like multi-minute implementation time to actually just activate the DDoS. But one principle still remains untouched. So one area, which is the brute force attacks. The reason why I'm saying it is like, why this is important, because this is the key principles that customers actually just think about for their SAP applications, non-SAP applications. So brute force attacks are really different from the DDoS. And I'm just getting all the time, when I was covering the DDoS, customer was asking, hey, I understand that DDoS is actually just helping brute force attacks. The moment that I hear that, I actually just like, say, no, it's not right. Brute force attacks are different from the DDoS attacks in that they are not designed to overwhelm a system with traffic like the DDoS attacks does.
Yeah.
Because DDoS attack, what it does, it is actually just sourcing from multiple points to attack the same, or multiple servers from different locations to overwhelm that architecture so that they can actually exhaust the system, they can take over. So this is how actually they attack. But
Right.
brute force attacks are really designed to gain access to a system by trying every possible combination of characters of passwords. So basically, what I call brute force attacks is trial and error method used by bad actors or hackers, so they can actually guess credentials, and they can go ahead and just like hack the encrypted data, such as login passwords, like encryption keys, through exhaustive efforts using brute force attacks. So what they hope from this is that they will eventually guess the password correctly. So these attacks are one of the most popular password cracking methods for hacking, like let's say solutions like WordPress. So when it comes to managing Azure VMs, what we tell Microsoft customers is that administrators usually use like a remote desktop for Windows, and they're using Secure Shell for Linux to remotely connect to the systems and manage them. So what we tell them that, the initial method to get access to those VMs was remote desktop protocol brute force attacks. It used to be. So a brute force attack consists of like checking all the possible username and passwords until the correct one is found. So, but however, this isn't the most sophisticated form of attack, though, from the brute force attack perspective. But it is very relatively simple to perform. And so basically, they are actually just spending excessive amount of time to make sure that they actually just go ahead and, guess that password. So to blunt that RDP brute force attacks, what we can do? So this is something that like customers are now asking. So what can I do? So basically, I'm actually just like putting everything here in the slide. Disable the public IP address. Use point-to-site VPN, site-to-site VPN, Azure ExpressRoute or Bastion. This should be for your connectivity. Require multi-factor authentication. Use complex passwords and limit the time that the ports are going to be open, right? So what happens from this, Lynn, when we're actually just looking at this overall like suggestions, a lot of customers are still not necessarily doing it. Basically, they're not using complex passwords. They're not requiring multi-factor authentication. So what Microsoft does with customers is, when a customer is in productive state, a CSA is working with them. If the CSA is going to see, hey, you work with a previous CSA, and then looks like you're not necessarily leveraging Microsoft best practices. Sometimes customers' IT personnel changes. They don't necessarily they don't necessarily go ahead and put notes down or just transfer it to the other person. But IT people from customers are always just keen to find out what the best practices are that they can implement to augment the systems. So these are the, best practices. Again, like point-to-site private network. They go in and just create the site-to-site VPN, require two-factor authentication. They're increasing, password length, and they go in and just add complexities to that. They're also limiting the login attempts to 3, 4, and after that, somebody is going to receive an email. Hey, you know what? This person has been trying to just access to, or somebody is trying to actually just access to the system. So you implement a complete automated public Turing test, which is the CAPTCHA, so that you can actually just do that, or you can limit the amount of time that ports are open is also going to be, important element. So
yeah, so this is for like teams. They use a like a Bastion server or an admin server of sort, but secured in a way where it's single point of entry and central control of security.
Exactly. So as you can see that what I'm doing right now, intertwining brute force attacks with the DDoS attacks. Because why? Whoever is attacking your system using the, DDoS methodologies to do that, they will also do the brute force attacks together. They're going to try to overwhelm the system together. So what Microsoft can help customers is Microsoft can implement DDoS protection for them. They just need to make the decision, and then Microsoft is going to provide it to them. And then Microsoft is going to provide an SLA with it as well. So Microsoft is going to provide the customer with the reports on the analysis that how many, DDoS attacks have been mitigated. But Microsoft is not going to be implementing the brute force attack protection. Microsoft CSAs, Cloud Solution Architects, ATU team, they are going to be advising the customers to leverage technologies, best practices to augment it. So denial of service attacks is again, this is always just being mixed with the brute force attacks, is an attack that has the goal of preventing access to services and systems. So if the attack is originating from one location, it is called DOS. If it is actually coming from multiple locations, it is called DDoS, denial of service attacks. Basically, what happens is that when a customer actually just comes to Microsoft and say, hey, I'm concerned about that, what exactly DDoS, what exactly they actually can do. So we ask the customers if they know anything about the botnets, for example. That we start from the botnets, as it is the collection of internet connected systems that an individual controls, and then the individual uses without their owner's knowledge. Basically, what happens is that the botnet owners use them to really perform, we just call it various actions of their choosing. Example that they use them for spamming, for example, for data storage, for DDoS, or they use it for various actions that are up to the person in the control of the botnet. So they can use it in any way they want. So in the past, when we were talking about botnets or thinking about botnets, they were made up of just compromised computers, all those computers and servers, the old technologies. But now botnets are also made up of technologies like IoT, Internet of devices. So what happens is when a malicious hacker is intending to attack a customer's environment, they can get this poorly secured cameras, digital video recorders. They can actually just get the thermostat data. They can get that thermostat hacking, or they can actually just use all those internet connected devices under their own control to access the systems. Right. So what we do with the DDoS, this is from the description, from the understanding perspective, this is the collection of attack types which are really aimed at disrupting the availability of that target system. So these attacks then involve a coordinated effort that are actually just going to use multiple internet connected, systems to launch maybe, many network requests against it will be DNS, like the web services, it might be emails, you name them. It can be more. So
Right.
basically, this is pretty much any application that the malicious hacker can access might become the target of the DDoS. SAP or non-SAP, it doesn't really matter if it is an S4 system or a big BW system, or if it is just like, Microsoft SQL, environment, managed SQL. It can be anything. So basically, what Microsoft does, we tell the customers that we are going to be educating them that these are many systems sending traffic to targets as part of a botnet. So basically, in most cases, the owners of the systems in botnet, they don't even know what exactly is going on because these devices are compromised already. So with the
Right.
DDoS protection, we actually just give the customers the technology that they can actually just like, use to make sure that like they can get the active, traffic monitoring and always on detection. They can get automatic attack detection and mitigation, detection of the thresholds. And, these are all just fixed and designed to be high to prevent impact on the Azure platform. And then most importantly, this is actually just giving the customer the uh, peace of mind, and they also know that they actually just get that SLA guarantee with the DDoS. So
Good.
basically,
Good.
I think that like I know that we are coming out of a little bit time, but these are the key elements. Again, there are lots of things to actually just talk about, and then in the next episodes, and then we can go ahead and just talk granularly about how Microsoft actually just like treats the encryption, for example, what Microsoft does from the enabling additional network security solutions to make sure that encrypted data disks are actually just secure all times, and then Microsoft can actually just leverage technologies like ASR, for example, to make sure the application replication to the other data center, either between zones or between regions,
Yeah.
can actually just be enabled to make sure that the traffic is encapsulated inside Azure Backbone, so providing the customer point-to-point security at all times.
Yeah, we can deep dive in. I think that so this is great foundation. Now we know the protection level Microsoft brings to the Azure cloud. Gives the everything that the customer don't have
Yeah,
to spend a lot of money to protect. So now next thing we want to get down to, and this is going to be episodes that hopefully Evren you can come back and work on. There are some topics I think like for instance I know the Sentinel for protecting
absolutely,
of security of SAP. There's lots of vectors there that it does, whether it's HANA or
exactly,
NetWeaver applications. We can try and dip down in, like you say, the disencryption level or the Azure site recovery, which is used for a lot of the DR processes. I think all of those are very important for us to understand and combine into what the application level, now that you move application, protection from inside out, as well as all of the monitoring
absolutely,
capabilities and reporting, like all of the metrics in what incident response, a security center, that thing would be. So
exactly.
that would be very interesting. I know you are so knowledgeable. We can break down and get into those, and I really appreciate this whole
So
overall Azure infrastructure.
absolutely,
I think a lot of people think all clouds are the same. They're not all the same. And then the security level and the approach each cloud vendor has
yeah.
definitely varies. And so I think it's quite good to understand this. And next level, we dive into to more SAP. How do you think about your, I would say, golden eggs, right? That you're trying to protect there. What are different things we can do to protect the application
Exactly.
on the cloud?
Exactly.
Thank
So
you very much.
all the best practices that I'll be ready to actually just cover again, that we have covered very minimal,
Yes.
area. So right now, when I'm actually just looking at my slides right in front of me, I am actually at slide number 6, but I have around 164 of these. Basically, each and every one with the demos and everything, and these will be hours of like coverage, but everything that I'm going to do going forward is going to be simplifying it for the audience that they can actually just implement these technologies without thinking,
Yeah.
hey, did I do anything wrong, or am I actually just like, making it a mistake here? So we are just going to help SAP customers, audience to implement these best practices without any troubles or problems. So, and also,
Well,
they are going
recognize
to have
this, right? So
exactly,
we all need one of these, right? We talk about physical security keys. So I
exactly,
started using this about a year ago, and it's I can't get into any of my cloud system without this. So it's very important. It's I think that's
absolutely,
part of that
absolutely,
two-factor. Yeah,
absolutely.
appreciate it. All right. Well, great. Thank you, Evren. Let's
Thank you so
reconnect.
much,
We'll
Lynn.
get another episode, and I would love to get more information on some of the SAP centric platform security areas that will make customers feel good that they're putting, all the egg and baskets in the
Absolutely,
Azure framework. Thank you.
absolutely, Lynn. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It was
All right.
awesome meeting with you. Thank you, audience, for watching us.
All right. Take care.
Take care.